The surreal new comedy Vodka Lemon has been described as an Ice-Capade's version of a Beckett play. Who better to make such a thing than an Iraqi Kurd living in Paris? Director Hainer Salim sets his drama in an isolated Armenian village. It's the kind of place in which nothing happens, except, of course, that means everything happens. The town's many characters become the film's plot. The magician responsible for it all talks to Canape.
Vodka Lemon, ça parle de la vie, de l'amour, de désespoir. C'est une tragicomédie tournée dans le village kurde en Arménie post-soviétique.
C'est parce que Bhagavata. En martnatove.
Խնդրեմ վերցրեք։ Մերսի։
Tombe la neige, tu n'avais pas ce soir. Tombe la neige, et mon cœur s'habille de noir. Ce soyeux cortège, tout en larmes blanches, l'oiseau sur la branche, l'ouvre sortilège. Tu ne viendrais pas ce soir, me crie mon désespoir. Mais dans la neige, impassiblement neige.
Donc, dans ce village que je pourrais dire presque qu'il n'y a même pas d'électricité, perdu, on ne trouve même pas sur la carte, dans les montagnes du Caucase. C'était vraiment l'histoire et l'envie de faire ce film qui m'a poussé à aller là-bas, à tourner dans des températures à moins 25 degrés, et qu'on mangeait des pommes de terre et le chou tous les jours.
Ինչ լավ էր է սովետի ժամանակ, ամեն ինչ կար։
Հա, բայց ազատություն չունեինք։
Ազատություն չունեինք, բայց ամեն ինչ կար, չէ։
Սովետը իբր ամեն ինչ անում էր մեզ համար, մենք իբր ամեն ինչ անում էինք սովետի համար, բայց ազատություն չունեինք։
Բայց ռուսների հետ լավ էինք ապրում, չէ։
Տղաս, որ էստեղից աղջիկ առնի լավ է։ Չէ, ռսի հետ տեսօր եկուցա երկար չի ձգի։
Ճիշտ ես ախպերս, ճիշտ ես։
I'm Kurdish, and for me it was not possible to go shooting, tourner in Kurdistan. So, and my movies talking about Kurdish. So I look for one alternative Kurdistan. I find in this village, a Kurdish village there. It was first reason. You know, in Kurdistan, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria, there are no reconnaissance for Kurdish rights. There are repression against Kurdish people. And so it was automatic for me to look for alternative Kurdistan. I go to Armenia.
Знаешь, Нина, я не зарабатываю достаточно. Я вынужден закрыть лавку.
Мне твоя помощь надо.
Լավ ֆուշում ռամեն։
Gustave Courbet led the realist revolution in French painting that preceded the arrival of Impressionism. Indeed, his canvases continued to set the standard by which the slippery word realism is defined. But no artist creates alone. One might say the unseen painting is no painting at all. The touring exhibit, Bonjour, Monsieur Courbet, the Bruyas collection from the Musée Fabre, Montpellier, tells the story of Courbet's relation with the patron and collector Alfred Bruyas. Canape stops at the Sterling and Francine Clark Art Institute in Williamstown, Massachusetts, to take a look.
Gustave Courbet was essentially known for his realism. He got his start in the 1840s, came to prominence in the early 50s, and so he's actually sort of the period just before Impressionism. One of the best examples of that I have here now of the Bathers, where you see on sort of a giant canvas, it's about 8 feet high, a woman who's sort of not at all ideally depicted. She's not sort of a classically proportioned, say, a goddess or a nymph or something. She's just an actual, real woman. And this was the type of idea that Courbet really pursued. Alfred Bruyas was actually the son of a banker. He was born and grew up in Montpellier, which of course is a regional town in the south of France. And in some ways, he was sort of a failed artist himself. He studied with an artist for a couple of years, around 1840 or so, but soon realized that this wasn't his calling, and decided instead to devote himself to collecting art. The idea that makes him unusual is that he was interested in collecting contemporary art. That is, he really wanted to essentially collaborate, to get to know artists. Bruyas spent much of his time in Montpellier. He made his first trip to Paris in 1850, and in 1853, Courbet was showing 3 paintings, and Bruyas actually bought 2 of them. He was so sort of taken with the artist. And shortly after seeing Courbet's paintings in the Salon, Bruyas commissioned a portrait from Courbet. The following year, he actually invited Courbet to Montpellier, where he could stay and do work for Bruyas. So that was sort of the beginning of their relationship. It didn't actually last terribly long, but he managed to produce some real masterpieces. The painting is called The Meeting, and it essentially depicts Bruyas and Courbet meeting on a road outside the town of Montpellier. Now, the event itself probably didn't actually happen this way. In fact, probably what it shows is Courbet coming back from a painting trip. You see Courbet with his easel and his paint box on his back. He's sort of striding into the scene, meeting Bruyas, who's accompanied by his servant and his dog. He's sort of acting as the lord of the manor, greeting the artist as he arrives. People essentially saw this painting as Courbet, the egomaniac. It's actually a bit difficult to tell who sort of has the upper hand in the image. Courbet is looking very sort of stout and gazing down his beard at Bruyas, but of course Bruyas is actually the patron. Alfred Bruyas, at the beginning of his collecting career, did tend to favor local artists, essentially. Cabanel was a major figure. He was born in Montpellier. But particularly once he visited Paris, he began to sort of branch out in his tastes. And he began collecting artists who appealed to him. Also, not necessarily large-scale things. He also has a wonderful collection of drawings. And so his collection began to diversify. Bruyas sort of gave evidence of a taste for not just academic art, but also more realist art, which is unusual to appreciate the different types of representation. Delacroix, in the mid-century, was perhaps the most famous living French artist. So Alfred Bruyas appreciated him on that level, and in fact, as soon as he could, I think, try to collect works by Delacroix. He has, in fact, the second version of a famous painting called The Women of Algiers in Their Apartment, The other version is in the Louvre. Brias in 1849 managed to purchase another version of the same canvas. Shortly after that, he also had his portrait painted by Delacroix. So he did have, on some level, a personal relationship. The exhibition actually has a range of different types of art, and it includes also 5 sculptures by Barye, who was essentially also a romantic artist. He was perhaps the best known sculptor of animals. There's also an amazing painting by Géricault, I should say, that Brias, towards the end of his career, began to sort of try to fill in gaps in his collection. He didn't have works by Géricault or by Ingres as well, and so he began to look for sort of these iconic 19th century artists in order to make his collection more comprehensive.
Since Columbus sailed the blue, the Atlantic has been no less a conduit of music than of people. Singer Maria de Barros carries the music in both directions. Born of Cape Verdean parents in Senegal, she was raised in Rhode Island and now calls Los Angeles home. World music diva Cesarea Evora is her godmother. On a recent concert stop in New York, the French-speaking singer chatted with Canape about her art and the many languages of music.
Je suis née au Sénégal et j'ai grandi en Mauritanie. Alors ça se fait que j'ai écouté beaucoup de musiques différentes, mais quand mes parents ils sont des îles du Cap-Vert, alors j'ai décidé de faire la musique capverdienne. Putumayo put in the world in Women of Africa album. It's called Minadun Katin, which means I have nothing. And what the song talks about is that although I have nothing, I'm not rich, but I'm not miserable. I'm a happy person, so stop meddling in my life and talking about me, and just let me live my life, for I have nothing, but I'm happy. Cape Verdeans feel that way, you know. It's like, you know, you come from a poor country and people think that you must sit there miserable, but it's not that. We're full of life, and material things are not the most important things to us. So. The reason I I've chosen this profession is because I want to touch people's lives. And at the same time, I want them to learn about my music and about my country and about these little groups of islands that are right in the middle of the ocean that nobody knows about. And I want the whole world to see a lot of it. And through my songs and through my music, and I hope they enjoy it and they get curious enough to go there and visit.
The New York Times calls it a brilliant, sinister French thriller. Based on a novel by Georges Simenon, Red Lights maps a journey on French roads into the heart of middle-class darkness. What begins as an errand to pick up children away at summer camp turns into a dissection of a marriage gone awry. Stop by stop, the trip moves further and further away from its original destination. Director Cédric Kahn talks with Canape about how the ordinary becomes something else.
Le film est une adaptation d'un livre de Simenon qui date des années 50, dont l'histoire a été écrite aux États-Unis. En fait, Simenon a vécu aux États-Unis pendant 10 ou 15 ans, il a écrit quelques romans américains. Et donc, à l'origine, dans l'histoire, les protagonistes habitaient New York et quittaient New York pour le Maine par la route 1. Voilà. Donc, ça c'est le point de départ. Ce livre, depuis les années 50, beaucoup de gens ont essayé de l'adapter aux États-Unis, en France. Et finalement, le producteur qui avait les droits en France, déjà depuis quelques années, me l'a proposé. Parce qu'il devait penser qu'il y avait des connivences avec les films que j'avais fait précédemment. Et effectivement, quand j'ai lu le livre, pour moi, c'était comme une évidence d'en faire un film. En fait, tout de suite, la lecture du livre m'a évoqué beaucoup d'images.
Pourquoi tu prends pas la file de gauche? Ça roule mieux.
Faut bien que j'essaye.
Attention! Pourquoi tu fais cette tête?
Quelle tête?
Tu as l'air énervé.
Oui, c'est vrai, ça m'énerve d'être sur la file de gauche alors qu'on était très bien sur la file de droite.
Si tu es fatigué, je peux conduire. Moi, je me
J'ai déjà
sens
dit non.
Pour moi, au départ, la route est tout à fait réaliste, parce que là, ce sont un couple qui quitte Paris pour le sud de la France, pour aller chercher leurs enfants en colonie de vacances, comme c'était à l'origine un couple qui quittait New York pour aller dans le Maine. Mais pour moi, elle est réaliste pendant 15, 20, 50 kilomètres. Mais très vite, elle devient une route philosophique ou mentale ou psychologique. C'est-à-dire que très vite, quand on comprend le sujet du film, on se rend compte que cette route n'est que devient de plus en plus le symbole du chemin, de la voie tracée, et que tout l'imagination du personnage principal, de l'homme, c'est la sortie de route en fait. C'est l'histoire d'une sortie de route. c'est quelqu'un qui ne s'aime pas en fait, et finalement cette nuit-là va être une nuit où il va pousser très loin la haine de lui. Ça va passer par la haine de sa vie, de sa femme, de ses enfants, de son confort. Il va devoir envoyer ça très loin de lui, se mettre en danger pour pouvoir retrouver un peu d'estime de soi. Et en fait, effectivement, c'est quelqu'un qui veut ne plus avoir peur, qui veut reconquérir de l'estime de lui-même, qui veut se sentir un homme face à sa femme. C'est ça qui est très beau dans l'écriture de Simon, c'est que ça part de choses très simples, mais que ça aborde des questions fondamentales dans la conscience de chacun, dans l'intimité. Là, il se trouve que c'est l'intimité d'un homme, mais ça aurait pu, écrit par quelqu'un d'autre, ça aurait pu être aussi la même histoire pour une femme, qui à un moment ressent le besoin de mettre sa vie en abîme parce qu'il veut plus ou il veut mieux. C'est quelqu'un qui veut mieux vivre, donc à un moment, il veut quitter sa condition.
Tout est de ma faute. Hélène, je voudrais te parler. Sais-tu à partir de quel moment, hier soir, j'ai commencé à te mentir? On n'était même pas partis. Je t'ai dit que j'avais bu une bière en t'attendant. C'était faux, j'en ai bu 3. Et après, pendant ta douche, je t'ai dit que j'allais faire le plein. C'était faux aussi. J'allais boire un whisky. J'ai continué toute la nuit. Je voulais me sentir fort. Sans entrave.
Tu me détestais.
Je me suis déchaîné contre toi. Contre nous. Contre les enfants même, je crois. J'ai mis un acharnement d'ivrogne à tout salir. Mais j'ai continué comme ça toute la nuit. Jusqu'à ce que je me retrouve ce matin au bord de la route. Sans savoir où j'étais.
J'ai eu un accident.
Non.
A best-selling novelist in France, Christine Orban grew up in a loving home in Morocco overlooking the blue Atlantic. She and her younger sister were best friends, sharing swimming during the day, hunting scorpions, and training the family animals. As she matures, Christine chooses to go to Paris for university. Mako stays behind and marries a Muslim man. Paradise, as always, is lost. The novelist turned memoirist talks to Canape about her way of keeping alive a sister she lost to cultural conflict.
My sister died suddenly, and she was my soulmate. We were very close. We were used to talk every day, and we were separated because she lived in Morocco and I live in Paris. And I have to continue. I can't talk to her anymore, so I write. I continued talking with her. It was my way. I was obliged to write this book. Also, I think people die really when we don't talk of them anymore. I want to give her more life because it's so unjust to die at 45 years old, pregnant. Also, I want to warn others women who want to marry the Muslim man that I have no hate, but I just want women know that when they marry the Muslim man, they don't marry just a man. They married a whole world, a whole family, a whole religion. My sister converted herself to Islam. And she was very young, she was 18. She was madly in love, so she was blind. She had to fast for Ramadan, to wear djellaba, long dress, no more Chanel or Gucci. She changed her life completely. Her husband, when we knew it, he was like a playboy, very handsome man, very civilized, very cultivated. And she can't imagine the day he get married, he will change. He was not a fanatic, but he was a religious. And as he married against his father's will, he had to prove, he was much more demanding with my sister. He had to prove he was not wrong to marry a Catholic, to marry a French. In Morocco, men can be unfaithful. And when he started having affairs, she was so disappointed that she asked for divorce because she can't stand it. And then he said, it's my law, I'm allowed to marry 4 women, 3 white and a black. That's my law. And nobody does it in his family. In Morocco, for divorce, there is no judge. The judge don't decide. The judge come at home and arrange with the man. And he decided she was too young, she was Catholic, and he want Muslim kids. She will see the kids just 1 or 2 a week and just 1 hour or 2 hours a week. For her, it was really, it starts the end of his life. I can see her change so much. My sister begged Kasim, his husband, to have just 3 little days, his kids, after 8 years of separation for Christmas. And she waited for 1 month, and each day, and she called me and she told me, do you think Kasim is going to accept, do you think? And he said no. The day of Christmas, or a few days before, you won't have your kids. And she died a quarter of an hour after. You see, just like that.